Yep, go for it.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another Ask a Dev stream. Today we are continuing our work on our indie game. My name's Kevin. These are, if you haven't joined one of these before, this is literally a live dev stream where we're actually kind of showing you behind the scenes of actually making the game. This is an open conversation. People in the Patreon community hop in, we have discussions, people ask questions, etc. And then usually I'll hang out afterwards and do more general Unreal questions and help people with the stuff they're working on too. Today we are working specifically on getting some of our combat systems online. We're going to be working on trying to create one of our relic moves, trying to flush out some of the stuff with one of our relic moves. So I'm just going to do a quick check to make sure that everything is running smoothly with the stream, and then we're going to get going. Okay, theoretically we're going, even though it doesn't look like it, but we're gonna roll like it's going anyway. So with that, let's go ahead and hop into Unreal Engine and get going. Before we get too far into it, thank you to some of our usual suspects. Rusty is here helping us out, which is good, helping make sure that things like audio are turned on, and also with questions and stuff like that for the community, which is cool. So let me give you all some context. We are deep in the middle of our design docs and implementation of different abilities. So right now, if I just show you where we are, just kind of like to frame what we're doing today, we have our character. And our character is able to do melee attacks and do damage. Okay, we also have ranged attacks, which do lots of range damage. But what we're specifically working on right now is our extra attacks. Our spells, we're calling them relic moves. All the naming of all these things may change. But this is kind of like our ability dashboard. It's come along in a lot of ways. So basically over here on our left, we have our current attacks, what's equipped, what's not. And then we also we can mouse over these things and we'll give you the stats. So for example, right now we have Stasis equipped. Stasis does a 300 attack, 200 ranged. If we upgrade to Stasis tier 1, you can see over here we'll get an additional 200 of damage in both of our range and melee attacks, and then our ranged range gets another 2. If I mouse over Pulse tier 3, you can see I get even more. We're going to if I upgrade, let's upgrade Stasis just so you can see. So now we've upgraded Stasis. If we go back to Fracture, you'll see that we lose damage, right? So I'm trying to make it easy for players to understand. That's not what we're working on today. We're working on it over here in our relic abilities, specifically in Pulse. If we equip Thunder Strider is you can see it here. It's a rippling shockwave that damages and knockbacks enemies with base stats. Those base stats are wrong. It's actually 1,000 hit points with a 2-meter radius, a 6-second cooldown, and it also does knockbacks on enemies. So that is the relic move that we're going to be working on today. But if you look at our handy dandy design doc, there's a lot about this move that is okay, so that's the base, right? It's a rippling shockwave that knocks back enemies. However, if we do I don't even know if it's in here. Yeah, so basically if you look in the Thunder Strider variant of this, the knockback will also give the character a speed boost or a kinetic dash, or it increases dash range, for example. Okay, if we look at Stormbringer, this increases the shockwave range, chains to 1 enemy, and chains to 3 enemies. So what does that look like? Right now I'm testing everything on Thunder Strider, but you'll get the idea. So we're working on specifically in our design doc as we go through this in the progression paths. When we look at our Stormbringer, the shockwave range increases its tier 1, It does a 10% chance of doing a mini shockwave, and it chains an extra time to enemies, or it chains to 3 enemies at tiers 3. Okay, dude, that's a whole lot of talking. Let's see what that looks like. So in its base form, if we do the attack, you can see we get, I gotta wait for cooldown. I gotta lower my cooldowns for this stream. Okay, so we get a little bit of a knockback. Nothing too crazy. But if we come in here and we pump up our to tier 1, we do even more damage, and oh, I gotta change the cooldown because it's gonna take too long. So we get more knockback and more damage. Okay, so if we go to tier 2, you're gonna see a double chaining effect happening. Right, so it was like boom, boom. And then if we go to tier 3, then it's like all kinds of damage, all kinds of chaining, to the point where a lot of these little guys won't survive. They're not made to survive this high level attack, but you get 1, 2, 3 hits on that. There's actually a 4th one, but nobody can survive long enough to actually hit the 4th one. So we kind of have that chaining working when we're talking specifically about, this is technically the Stormbringer ability. If we look at this, the Stormbringer ability has the chains, etc. So what are we going to do today? We are going to work on, we're going to try to implement Raging Tempest. Okay? To do this, we have to take a look. So we have our base attack, and then what happens as this upgrades? Well, at tier 1, we're going to add a damage over time that does not 5, but 500 HP. We should change this. 500 hit points over 5 seconds in a 2-meter radius. Okay, now that one, we have a disconnect. Oh, actually, no, we don't. We do have a disconnect in the sense that the range is a 3-meter radius by default. It doesn't make sense that the initial tier of this would have a smaller range than the actual range of the dome. So we're going to bump that to 3 meters. And then our second one is second tier. It's the same thing. We get our damage over time, but then we also get 5% damage reduction. And then our third one, we get, this is actually going to be 1,000 hit points over 5 seconds instead. So for today, let's just see if we can get Raging Tempest created. That's the goal. Okay? Any questions, y'all? Welcome, Naroda.
Hey, and nope.
Cool.
Questions for me either.
So this is the pulse abilities. Okay, and I am going to start by, interesting. We have kinetic dash, fracture beam, pulse, shockwave. Okay, so this is our shockwave. So we have a gameplay ability for shockwave. All right, and what this does is this should actually probably, let's see here, we come in here, we do our shockwave. Let me go ahead and do this to make it bigger. I think when I set this up, I wasn't naming things properly. This is setting the timer by event. This is the knockback, etc. Okay, let's check our design doc. So the base ability for the shockwave does, oh, it does a 2-meter knockback. Okay. Then Stormbringer actually does all the chaining. So does this do chaining in here? Yeah, this does the chaining. And this does the chaining if we have a chain counter. Okay. Okay, so basically what happens is we come in here, we do our initial damage and knockback. That's just the base ability. Then we're going to branch. If we have a chain count, we're going to do some chaining here. Okay, what's interesting? Say again?
I can hear.
Are you? I do still hear audio. Rhoda, do you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what's happening is we do our chaining if we have a chain max count. chain max count gets increased if we find this by reference. This gets pumped up if we have a relic ability tier 1. Okay, so here's the problem. This pulse shockwave, this is the generic gameplay ability. This is not separated out to be Stormbringer right now. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that this, we have to make a decision. Are we going to equip a different pulse shockwave and add to it, or are we going to have a separate gameplay ability for Stormbringer, Shockwave, Raging Tempest, and I can't remember what the third one is right now. We have Stormbringer, oh, Thunderstrider. So are we going to have a separate gameplay ability for each of these three, or is it going to be one gameplay ability that switches? I'm going to go with switches for right now, just for ease. But what that means, though, is we need the ability to say which one this is. So this is our progression path. So let's just put a breakpoint here real quick, and let's just go ahead and do this. If we go, we bring up, and we go Thunderstrider. Okay, and we press E. What is our current progression path? What do you mean no debug data? I love it. Okay, so let's do this a different way. Let's look at the data table. Data table underscore relic progression. Okay, so in here, that's our magic type. Progression path. Okay, so our progression path is actually called Stormbringer. So what we want to do here is in here, we only want to do this if it's a Stormbringer. So we need to think about that. And the only thing that Stormbringer does right now, we're going to have to probably break this out. This is going to get messy. So can we do a switch on this? Switch on string? We can. Okay, so default is going to be default. Case 1 is going to be Stormbringer. Okay, so now we have Stormbringer. Let's grab the other ones while we're here. Raging Tempest. Wrong button. So we're going to add a pin for Raging Tempest. And then let's do one more pin for Thunderstrider. That way we have everything here, and we can make up how we're going to change our minds on this stuff as we go. Okay, so when we come in here, we're going to go ahead and do this path here where we increase our chain counter. Oh, interesting. Okay. So this is going to be, I think I said this was Stormbringer, right? Stormbringer chains, yes, so Stormbringer. So for Stormbringer, we're going to follow this path. Okay? And then by default, we're just going to skip through. We should have another, we need a default one of these as well. So we're going to have cooldown magnitude on this, and we'll feed this into our spec handle. And then I don't know if we can have multiples of these, so we're going to need one of these for each path. So let's just go like this. Okay, so by default, we do need to still have ability cooldowns and everything like that. So our default path is going to be here. Okay, and then we'll go about and we'll do damage and knockback. All right, so we should never hit this. Like, this shouldn't be possible. The reason we should never hit this is because you have to have... actually, that's not true. If we don't have enough shards, we would hit this. Okay, I lied. But we have a missing target here. Okay, let me show you what I mean. This is the default, right? So if we go press play and I just bring up the chart for y'all to see, right now we have pulse equipped. I haven't picked any of these yet. So technically we might hit the default in that case, but generally speaking, you'll want to pick one of these, at which point, yeah, we'll just keep it just in case. Okay. All right, so now that we have the default path as our backup, we're going to do, we said Raging Tempest. Okay, so when we get to the end, so there's a couple ways to gate this. Right now, we're doing, after we do our basic knockback, then we're doing all this chain stuff. Technically speaking, we could just set a variable, like, are we Stormbringer? Do Stormbringer things. And that might be, we may end up there by the time we're done with all this. We are learning how to implement these abilities in a way that is reproducible at a much faster speed than what we're doing right now. Like, it is taking us way too long to build these abilities right now. But as an example, this might be another switch that we put in. So this is going to be Stormbringer. But we're working on, we said Raging Tempest. So let's just try to get Raging Tempest in here. So for Raging Tempest, we need a damage over time. All right. So as we're looking at this, we're going to come in here. We don't really need any of this. Our cooldowns, does Raging Tempest change any of our cooldowns? No, it does not. Okay. Not even with the compass thresholds either. Okay, cool. So technically, Raging Tempest can just use our standard Relic cooldown timer. So we could just feed this in. Okay? But when we get to the end, we do our damage and knockback. This is handled. Here's a do damage and knockback. Plays the VFX. Does the sphere overlap of the actors, goes through each one, does all of our hit results and everything like that. It applies, this is our normal damage, etc. And then it does the knockback. Okay, so we do want a variable, I think, because we also want to apply an additional gameplay effect if we're using Raging Tempest. So let's do this. We don't really need a variable for this because we have the relic path data as a variable already. Okay, so over here, before we do our knockback, let's add in another space. And what we're going to do is what does this do? This is for our chain counter. We're not worried about that because that's going to be 0 because we're going to follow the default path. So it's going to come down here and it's going to do this. I'm going to copy this, paste it right here. Then I'm going to get our current relic path data. I'm going to break this, or let's just split it. We'll split the pin struct. Then we're going to say, does this equal? Not equal. We need equal. And we said Stormbringer. No, we said Raging Tempest, and it has a space. So I'm going to grab this just to copy it so we don't mess this up. Over here, Raging Tempest. All right, so let's take this. Oh, bummer, we can't collapse that down afterwards. That's a bummer. Okay. So we're going to check to see if it's equal to Raging Tempest. And if it's not, we're just going to knock back. And if it does, we're going to do Raging Tempest things. Okay, so Raging Tempest things means we need a couple things. So we definitely need our ability system component for our enemies. So we want to plug that in. And we also want to plug in our spec handle. Do I want to use the same one? This, we may not be able to recycle this. We're about to find out. This is a gameplay ability question. Okay, and now we need a new gameplay effect. Yeah, we're gonna make a new one. We're just gonna make a new one. That's making me nervous. So let's just do this. Okay, we don't need that. That's fine. Okay, whew, finally there. Now, right now we have instant damage. We need to create a new gameplay effect for damage over time. So let's see if we can do that. So let's just take this instance damage and duplicate it, and we're going to call this damage over time. DOT. Damage. Dot damage. Okay, now in here, what we want to do is we have, this is not a damage trait of instant. It is going to be relic. We can keep that, that's fine. This is going to be, has a duration. Now, I don't want to use a scalable float for the duration, because if you look at our doc, we do 5 seconds of damage over time. We do 2 seconds of speed boost. We have variants of this. So let's make this a variable. So rather than using a scalable float, we're going to set this by caller. And the set by caller tag we're going to use is going to be, we're going to create a new one here. We're going to add a subtag called effect duration to make it generic. And we're going to put this in a request. We're going to add that new tag. We're going to drop this in here. Okay. So that's how we're going to set our duration. So we can compile and save that. And just to close the loop before I get too far, how do we trigger that? What we do is we need to use our dot gameplay effect. Okay. And then what we're going to do with that spec handle is we are going to, I'm going to duplicate this real quick. We're going to have 2 set by caller functions. Okay, and this one is going to be our, wait a minute, where'd that go? Effect duration, compile and save. Oh, here it is, effect duration. Okay, so now we can set our effect duration. We're going to set this to 5 seconds. Okay, getting there. Now, then we're going to set our damage. And our damage magnitude is at the first tier. Let's just get that first tier going. We're doing 500 HP over 5 seconds. So our damage is actually going to be 100. And if we go back in here, here's our duration. We need a period. Okay, and our period is going to be, let's do it every 1 second. We could make this also, no, I don't know that we can make this a variable as well. It doesn't look like it, but we'll keep that there. So every 1 second for 5 seconds, it is going to do, not Thunderstrider, it's going to be Stormbringer, but we'll fix that in a second. It's going to do whatever damage we pass in by caller to our set by caller damage. Okay, so theoretically, that should be set up now. Also, do I have Perforce? I do not. Hold on. Perforce. Okay. So let's browse this asset since we just made it. Vision control is online. Vision control, mark for add. Okay, cool. So back in our ability, now we just got to trigger all this stuff. Okay, so if it is Stormbringer, we're going to add an additional effect to every enemy that is damage a time. We're going to apply the effect, then we'll knock them back. So no matter what, they're getting knocked back. So let's just put a comment around this. Stormbringer. No, Raging Tempest. Come on, Raging Tempest. Okay. So, should we test it? We're missing something. Yes, we are. We're missing our instigator effect context. What else are we missing? Well, it compiles. That's a miracle. Data tag and spec handle, target. Dude, this could be wild. Let's just see if this works. So in order for this to work, we just need to have Raging Tempest equipped. All right, let's see. Let's go to big screen. Okay, so we need Pulse Magic and we need Raging Tempest. Let's get rid of this so y'all can see it. And there's nothing in the way. So many things in the way. Hold on a second. Let's fix our windows here. Okay, cool. Back to it. Alright, moment of truth. We got Raging Tempest. Why is that cut off? That should not be cut off. Hold on, I need to see something here. We may have a UI problem. Yeah, we definitely have a UI problem. In full screen, this should scale properly. It doesn't. Oh well, we got it equipped. That's fine. So if I hit E now, look at that. Okay, so it kind of worked. Kind of worked. It did do a damage over time. However, it stopped. It did not go for 5 seconds. Now, I have a hunch as to why that is. And my hunch is that the ability is ending. So what happens is after we do our knockback, when we finish with this, we come where we finish that, we do our knockback, then we have, where are we ending our ability? We need to find all of our end abilities. End ability. Okay, we have 2 of them. One is if it's not a player, that's fine. And the second one is after this wait delay on a false. So let's see here. No. That's if it, okay. So actually we're not ending our ability correctly at all, I don't think. So we may need to rethink where we do this ending of the ability. But for the case of Stormbringer, this is fine. This works correctly. But for the case of Raging Tempest, we come in here, we execute our burst to do our knockback, and then what happens? Do damage and knockback. After we do damage and knockback, I don't think we go any further. So if we just, let's just put a breakpoint here and just test this. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do damage and knockback. And it doesn't end. So the fact that it doesn't end means I probably, oh, somehow I'm able to trigger this again. am I able to trigger this again? It must be overriding the default one. Inner class settings, defaults. What's our retriggered? Retrigger, what does this do? Retrigger instance ability. If true and trying to activate an already active instance ability, end it and reach. Oh, okay. So that must be what's happening. So let's test this theory. We're going to put a breakpoint on end. Do we hit that with just a single press? We do not. If I wait 6 seconds for the cooldown to finish, does it hit it? No, it does not. But if I press E, yeah, that's what's happening. It's ending the ability and it's triggering it again. We need to end this ability properly. Okay? So we definitely have a problem there that we need to fix. Now, there's a trick to this. The cooldown for this, interesting. So the cooldown for this ability is 6 seconds. We want to, let's see here, up here. This is happening per enemy. Then we're coming down here. This is sort of messy, because this is Stormbringer. Okay, well, what we could say is, to be clear, it would probably be better if rather than chain count is greater than 1, we made this if statement, is this Stormbringer? And if it is, do all this stuff. And if it's not, or we could put a switch if it's Raging Tempest, whatever, because we basically need to change the way we're ending this ability based on Raging Tempest. So what we want to do is for Raging Tempest, let's do another thing in here, which is we're also going to set our wait delay, because we know that Raging Tempest, the ability itself has a 6-second cooldown, but the Raging Tempest damage over time effect is 5 seconds. If we look at our design doc, for Raging Tempest, it's a damage over time over 5 seconds. The problem is, if we end the ability too soon, the damage over time is not going to get to keep going. So let's try putting a wait delay in here for 5 seconds. So after 5 seconds, we want to end the ability. So if this is false, we're going to do a version of this.
If you're applying a damage over time effect, it shouldn't care if the ability ends or not. It should just care about the duration of the effect.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. We can test it. Let's test it. We'll test both ways. I'm gonna put a wait delay in here just for kicks, and then we can come in and take it out. That would be really cool if we didn't have to do that. So it does not seem like our damage over time is working. So let's see if we're even hitting it. Are we hitting this? Oh no, of course we're not, because we didn't equip it. Look at us. So we need Pulse Magic and Raging Tempest. But it's only doing 1 hit. So either our damage over time, so we have duration, we have
1 second. Yeah.
We have a 1 second period.
Is that the one that is that clamping the effect then?
No, this is the period in seconds for non-zero effects. Like, this is how often in the duration. We could, there's something we could try here. We could do this. We could do, rather than set by caller, we could just switch this to scalable float. And we can change our duration to 5 seconds and our period to 1 and see if that works. Pulse, Raging Tempest. Like, just trying to eliminate variables here. There we go. So that's working. Okay, that's working really, really nicely actually. Okay, so if that's the case though, now let's test Rhoda's theory. I love it. What we're going to do is we're not going to wait to end the ability. We're just going to end the ability here. Okay? Do we get the full damage over time? I hope this is true. Come on, Rhoda. Hell yeah, dude. I love it. Okay, perfect. That's great. So we don't even have to juggle that wait delay, which is awesome. So I don't mind setting it, but we're just not going to use it. Okay, so now we got to figure out why the gameplay effect, which of these things is broken. So every second is working, but for some reason, set by caller data tag with an effect duration is not working. So let's come back here. I want to check something here. Let's see if it's Pulse, Raging Tempest. Oh, God, dude. Man. Okay, let's just test my theory here real quick. Let's go back and reconnect this line to here. And if this is the case, this is just working with the gameplay ability system is one of the toughest pieces when it comes to making sure you have your noodles right. So let's try this. It only did one. It only did one. Okay, so here's what I think is happening. When we make the outgoing spec, yeah, this is a great example. You gotta be careful with these noodles. So when we make an outgoing spec and we assign the test to it, right, it's very typical to see stuff like this in your blueprint. The problem is this pin makes another outgoing spec. So every time we're calling this right now, we're making an outgoing spec. So we make one and we set our duration. Then we make another one and we set the damage, but we're only sending the damage one. It's not cumulative. So you gotta make sure that you're only working with the one spec handle. So this will get us back to a working damage over time effect. So if we go Pulse Magic with Raging Tempest and we do that, nice. Very cool. Okay, it's working, y'all. Okay, but we're not done. Why? Because my very simple magic system is not very simple. It's so dumb. Okay, so that's Raging Tempest, tier 1, 500 HP over 5 seconds with a 3 meter radius. Tier 2 does additional work. It grants a 5% damage reduction. That's going to be a separate thing. And then tier 3 does damage over time 100 HP. Okay, so let's not deal with the damage yet. Let's just get damage reduction. Let's just change the amount of damage. So if we're doing, we got to do some math here. It's still 5 seconds. So, okay, cool. So the magnitude needs to change based on which tier we're in. So if we're doing Raging Tempest, which is here, we need to do a switch. And the switch, we're going to do a switch much like this one. All right. We don't need this. Let's just get rid of this. Okay, so we're going to set our damage magnitude for Raging Tempest to be 100. Okay. And then we're going to check our tier. If we're tier 1, 2, etc. We're not going to change any of that. So let's just change this to start at 3. And then let's remove, actually let's compile and save everything, because removing pins is, remove the pin, remove the pin, then we're going to set it to 200. Okay, and plug that in, and then over here, when we're doing our damage, we're just going to use our damage magnitude. All right, compile and save. So now, when we play, let's get all of our goodies. We're going to switch to Pulse and Raging Tempest. Now, let's test a couple things. We actually have a general UI problem because it's even cutting off our other stuff. Anyways, if we execute this, we're doing hundreds. Okay, if we increase our Raging Tempest to tier 2, we should still be doing 100s. Okay, cool. Now if we go to tier 3, we should be doing 200s. Oh, but we overrode it. We're only doing 200s. Okay, I forgot we're using that. We need a different variable. Okay, here's what's happening. This damage magnitude is being used to do the damage magnitude for the default set. And so we just accidentally overrode that. So we need a different variable for it. And you know what? We could use path specific damage magnitude, for example. So if we do path specific damage magnitude. Now, there's something to be said about clarity of variables here. You could easily say we should create one called Raging Tempest damage magnitude. That's super clear what that's doing, where it's used. The reason that I'm potentially, so this first set of Pulse, Relic, Move, Magic ability, I'm trying to set this thing up so I have all the tools that I need, that when we go to do Echo and all these other things, I can start with one generic gameplay ability blueprint. And because you can see here, it's called Raging Tempest. But if we look at, for example, Fracture, okay, Fracture uses Rebirth Martyr, Rotweaver, and Ashen Purifier. Which, by the way, all those names could change when I realized how dumb they are. But for now, they help us keep it straight. And it would be nice if every time I duplicated this gameplay ability, I didn't have to rename all these things from Raging Tempest to Ashen Purifier, for example. So as potentially obscure as path-specific damage magnitude is, it's also path independent, so that it doesn't matter what the path name is. I can just use it. Now, generally, I am not saying this is the best way to work, but for me, my personal workflow is I kind of need to build a thing once, figure out how it works, and then what happens is when I go to build it and reuse it, I learn all the things that I need to variabilize, workflows, etc., to make it repeatable. So what we're doing right now is we're building our initial baseline so that I can potentially make this repeatable and reusable. And we may find that that's just very difficult to do. For example, even the switch on string is probably not going to work out super well. I'm going to have to rename that per thing, but just roll with me here. Okay. So we're going to set this to 100 here and replace this. And we also have another problem, which I'll show you in a second. I'm going to set this, control drag this so I don't have to go hunting for where it connects to. And compile and save. Now we got to plug that in over here instead. So we're going to use our path specific damage magnitude now. Okay, so we should compile and save, play, pick up our goodies so we can do this. Pulse Magic, Raging Tempest, testing, 100, 100, 100, 100. Nice. We need to count that, by the way. How many times does that happen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's doing 1 extra. Also, I don't know if y'all noticed, but look at the small 100 at the beginning. You see that 100 that popped up at the beginning? It's doing the initial damage, plus it's doing an initial 100, then it's starting the damage over time effect. So we have a flaw in our timings a little bit, but that's fine. Let's just ramp this up to get to tier 3 and double check
that's just a box you can check on the gameplay effect.
Okay, cool.
There's like an initial apply or something like that.
So what I need Naroda just to be sitting here with me at all times so that it can save me lots of checkbox hunting effectively. Thank you so much. And by the way, everybody who's watching, this is why we do these as open conversations. Like, this is why when I say we are building this game, I mean we're building a game because y'all amazing. So let's check this 200. It does nothing. And I broke it, so I must have forgotten to connect something.
I think the value at 0 is that, right?
No, my guess is that
Is it
the
0 there? Is that?
Oh, what? How did I get to 2? What? Also, I'm kind of concerned that it's not progressing because of that switch, but let's just try. Pulse Magic, Raging Tempest. There we go. We're doing 200 now. And they do not survive. These little guys do not survive. Alright, so let's check.
It's right under period. Execute periodic effect on application for your extra dot thing.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
It's always a checkbox in Unreal. So let's give that one more try. What's that?
It is always a checkbox.
I swear to God, we are all professional checkbox hunters. Alright, so let's go to tier 3. Do we see that initial 200? That's what we're testing here. Nope. 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, they didn't die this time. They did. They almost died. They didn't die because they had just enough left over. Holy cow. How am I doing 700 damage? Oh, geez. The melee attack at tier 1 for Pulse does 700 damage. That's nice. Okay, cool. Okay, so y'all, we did it. Like, we got 9 minutes left. We actually did. We actually did something. It's kind of cool. Okay, so where are we at? Where does that leave us with Raging Tempest? Oh, actually, there's probably something else that's worth testing. Can we still use Stormbringer? So if we come out here and we do Stormbringer, we want to make sure our Raging Tempest isn't getting applied. I can't even trigger it, which is interesting. What the world?
So you're selecting your skill from the menu.
Oh, I was clicking thunder, not yeah, here we go. Not Stormbringer. Okay, so you gotta wait 6 seconds. Okay, so there's the pushback. So it is working. So if we tier this thing up, do we get all of our chaining? We should get 2 chains on this one. Yep. Okay, so we can now switch between them. And that works properly. So as a player, I can choose which one I'm doing. So what we're doing, even though it may not be wrong buttons, even though I'm still skeptical about whether or not a gameplay ability per relic path is the best way to go. What might be another option? What we could do instead is we could have a gameplay ability per relic path. Actually, let me rephrase that. Right now, we're trying a gameplay ability per relic. Okay. What we could do is we could equip Pulse Shockwave, and then you choose Stormbringer, Raging Tempest, and Thunderstrider, right? But what we could do is we could create a gameplay ability per specific one. So we could have a gameplay ability for Thunderstrider, a gameplay ability for Raging Tempest, etc. You get the idea. The problem is there's enough in here that is reusable, hopefully within the paths, that this might make sense. So we're going to try it. That's what we're trying. This totally worked. As a quick glance, as far as what we actually got done today, is we kind of got the Raging Tempest damage over time effect online. The only thing that we're missing now to call Raging Tempest done is we need one more gameplay effect that we will define. That gameplay effect is going to apply damage reduction to the player so that they get some kind of shielding whenever Raging Tempest is active during that time. So the damage reduction is the same duration as the damage over time effect, so you have a 5-second window where you're taking 5% less damage, 10% less damage, etc. So part of the reason I'm not doing that right now is the system damage execution does not yet understand damage reduction. That's going to require some code changes. I'm going to have to go into C++, and I think there's a bunch of things that I need to highlight in the docs. So what I'm doing is this damage reduction, I'm going to highlight that red. So when I look at my design docs, I know that is a thing that I could not build while I was building these abilities. I need to go back to the execution because there's more of these. There's shields, there's damage reduction, there's weakness, there's all these things that the current damage execution does not understand, and I'm going to need to put my thinking hat on with all these things that I basically highlighted red to figure out how damage reduction is going to handle these properly, including Critical Strike. Critical Strike has it's not set up yet. And then the other thing that was also not there yet is the entire idea of compass thresholds, how they modify these abilities, as well as perfect strike bonuses. So this is bonkers. This is bonkers. But it's a lot of fun. I'm learning an insane amount. That's the whole goal here, is to learn more about one of my weakest areas, which is design, progression, gameplay, all these things. So this is why we're doing this. This is why this is fun. Before I wrap up, Rusty Naroda, do you all have any questions specifically for the stream?
Nope.
No, sir.
Okay, very cool. So let's wrap this up, and then I'll come back and we'll hang out and just general chat type stuff. Everybody else, as always, this is it. This is a look behind the scenes. This is what dev streams are all about. It's not fancy. It's not always forward progress, but today was one of those days where we actually got some cool stuff done, which is great. Got one of our, at least one portion of one of our new Relic moves online. Trying to get all these things done so I can get a combat playtest in front of you all sooner rather than later. As always, thank you. Shout out to Patreon for supporting the channel. Thank you everyone for watching the videos, helping spread the word, letting know people were building a fun little indie game. And as always, for downloading, playtesting, giving feedback along the way. That is why this game is going to be fun. because you all are part of this whole journey. So, as always, I hope everybody has an amazing rest of your day, weekend, etc. I will catch you all on an upcoming devlog or dev stream. Take it easy.
At least 5 seconds. Well, at least another stream without a crash.